that song, Hashem is here, Hashem is here, Hashem is here. I was like, how do we verify that? She's like, he's not alive anymore. I'm like, no, but I really want to know, like, who actually composed that? So what does that mean? So here, what I'm enjoying so much about learning Tanya is that it gives you an exact method to tell you how you know Hashem is in this world. Like, we say meditate. What does meditation mean? I'm going to tell you exactly how to meditate. I'm going to tell you exactly what this means, that Hashem is here in this world. Okay, so a lot of times we think that, the concept of creation is a very esoteric thing. How did Hashem create this world? When Hashem first started this world, everything was what? Was one big ball, let's say, of light, right, of creation, and then Hashem eventually did what? Asara Mamaros. Hashem created the world, but he didn't just create the world with like a wand, with a stick. How does it say Hashem created this world? With words, with actually speaking it out clearly into this world. Vayihar, let there be light, right? That there was a rakia, there was a yabasha. Everything was said with words, okay? So hold that thought for 1 second. Now, in order for Hashem to make space when it came to creation, how did he do it? Hashem is this almighty, right? But he wants to create this illusion that there's this world down here. But it's very, very tricky. And by the way, like a lot of Hinduism and Buddhism and people who say like portals, right? If you ever hear those words, those are like trigger words. That is a concept, but it's not a Jewish concept that this world is an illusion. That, like I always say, it's like a hologram. There are holograms, but this world is real. Sometimes I say this to my kids all the time. They're like, Mom, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's not even real. And they're like, what does that mean? And then I'm like, it's an illusion. And then I realize that it's not. Because saying it's an illusion is a little bit like, I don't say Avodah Zarah, but it's like a little bit like, what are you believing? So in the Baal Tanya explains that the way that creation exists in this world is actually the same way that speech is in this world. So like, let's do an analogy, okay? So the way that Hashem is to us in this world is the way that we are, right? Remember like those analogies, right? The way that we are, okay, to our words. Okay, the way that Hashem created this world is the same way that we create words, the separation of creation. Okay, so let's understand this for a second. When you're about to say something, okay, think in your head something that you're about to say. Who wants to go? What were you about to say? Sorry, I keep looking at you, sorry. What were you just thinking about? What?
No, like, I don't know what she's talking about.
I don't know what she's talking about. Okay, fine. But for 1 minute, that thought was in your head. I have no idea what she's talking about. Is that thought independent of you, or is that thought you?
Independent.
But is it? You don't think it's inside of you? It's still contained in your head. It never even came out. Your brain hurts. I know. It's like your subconscious. It is you. That thought, okay, give me a minute. I'm going to work it out. I know it's not easy, and it's a nice sunny day, and we'll see it in a minute. We'll give you another example. When your thought is in your head, I have no idea what she's talking about, right? That's in here. The second I say it out loud, I have no idea what she's talking about. That speech might feel disconnected from me, but it actually is just an extension of me. Okay? I'm thinking in my head, 5 plus 5 equals 10. Nobody knows that. I say it, 5 plus 5 equals 10. Is that concept of 5 plus 5 equals 10 an extension of me or just independent of me, just floating?
Extension.
It's an extension of me.
Is this like a responsibility? Like your words are...
Your words are definitely, they do.
Right.
Think about that.
But
like when
they're
you...
not part of this world if they're in your head?
If they're still in this head, they're still connected.
They're still in this world.
They're still in this world because you're in this world. Okay, 1 second. I know it's like 1 second. My head hurts. Okay, so it's in your head. Yeah, you're fine. Oh, thank you. My target audience. Thank you. The things are in your head. They're still part of you, and when then they come out, they're an extension of you. Okay, let's think of an example. Right now, I'm looking at Paloma. She's sitting there in the sun. Right? You're like, I don't know, my kids love it. Like when they're crawling on the floor, especially my baby now, like he sees the sunlight right on the floor and he like puts his hand on it like a ray, right? You see it's on Paloma? See how it's hitting her? She's just glowing, right? That sun, you're like, yum, it's so warm, it's so cozy. I'm gonna get tan just on my right hand because that's where my sun is, right? That's where the sun is. This sun is so good. This ray feels so good. I want more of this ray. I'm going to go back. I'm going to see where this ray came from because it's feeling so good. It's right over here on my hand. I want to travel back to where it came from. So now if I take that sunbeam and I ride that sunbeam, I surf all the way up to heaven, what happens? Who do I meet? The sun, right? And now I'm in the sun. And I'm so excited. I'm like, hey, where's my ray? Where did that ray of light go? It was so good to me. I want to go find it. So I go all the way up, right? And I'm actually able to even stand on the sun. And I'm just looking and I don't see it. And it's not looking like I'm just looking for a needle in a haystack. Like I'm looking for my kid in Adventureland on Cholamayit when Tag sponsors the whole thing and there's every single front kid there and I have no idea where my kid is. So I will dress him head to toe in neon yellow so that I find him, right? It's not that kind of bittul. That kind of bittul is like, I don't know if you saw this at like Yaakov Langer was wearing Waldo at the rally, like where's Waldo? It's not a bittul of like a nullification of like there's just a swarm of all of you and I'm like, okay, which beanie is my beanie, right? Like, you know, I'm like, I try to do that. If I don't dress my kid in neon, I wear a neon color beanie so that they find me, right? So we don't get lost. The worst is in like bounds because like the kids could really disappear and I could like sit on the floor for good 4 hours and then I'm like, oh, you want to extend another half hour? Sure, not a problem, right? And then we lose the socks every single time, right? It's not like that. It's not like I'm losing myself in a group. It's actually when I go there to the sun has no rays inside of it. It is only sun. What happens to that? What does that mean? What does that mean about this world? If I were to come back from every extension and think about this, think about when Hashem created the world. We're trying to understand creation because we're saying that if I make a dwelling place for Hashem in this world, I will be happy. That's what he said. And I want to be happy. Trust me, we all want to be happy. So
is that what you're saying that?
Think about creation. So now that we know this concept that there are things that can be an extension of you and they are not independent of you, they are an extension of you. Think about that. Think about the sun has rays and extension. And then if you travel back, it's only the sun. If you travel back, it's only me.
So you're saying when you say things, you can't take them back, so to be very careful.
So no, we're not talking about that. No. We're not talking about speech. We're talking about how is creation of this world not independent of saying like this is a phone, this is a book, this is a candle, this is mom's iced tea. If I'm gonna tell you Hashem is everywhere, right? Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is here. And we're like, what are you talking about? Where's Hashem? Where's Hashem right now? The hostages, right? Where's Hashem right now? I got pulled over by a cop. Where's Hashem now? My kid is sick, right? If you were to say that, I'll respond to you what the Tanya says, that everything is Hashem. And you're like, yeah, everything is Hashem, but can't be this, can't be my burnt sourdough. I have such sourdough issues. And like, it's because I'm not like planning. So where's Hashem in that? And I'm telling you, no, Hashem is everywhere. That existence does not bypass the fact that there is a creator in this world, and I'll prove it to you. Not I'm just going to tell it to you, I'll prove it to you, and I'll tell you, look how speech is. Look, that speech is just an extension of who I am. The words that I speak are actually me. That should, by the way, make me a little bit more careful with Lashon Hara and the way that I speak, because that means that is me. But I wasn't trying to scare you with that. I wasn't talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that it can look like it's independent. It can look like it's out there, but it really has a source. And when you go back to that source, it's everything all in one, and there's nothing independent. So to understand that Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere, you have to go back to creation and think about it. When Hashem created the world, He spoke this world into existence. It's not just like, oh, it rhymed, let there be light, and it sounded cool, and it would be great for a movie one day. It wasn't for that. When Hashem spoke this world into existence, He was proving the fact that I can create something that's just an extension of me, and it looks so real that we actually get upset sometimes. Like, it's so real that we get frustrated. Like, think about it. You're in the car and you're like, this is so, like, you're in traffic, right? And you're like, this is so unbelievably crazy. You start muttering to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late. I'm just giving you a scenario that happens to me. So, like, yesterday I had a doctor's appointment with my kids in the city, and it was called for 8:30. And I'm like, okay, we'll leave at 7 o'clock. We'll get to the city, right? No. We got there at like 9:15. But in my mind, the entire drive, which I let my daughter drive because she just passed the road test, and I was like, let me at least use this as a drive. And I said, I know I'm crazy. Myron told me, she's like, Devorah's never getting in the car with her. I was like, okay. I know. But you know what? She passed on her first time. So like, go. That means you're good. So anyway, she's driving. And the entire time I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. And then I keep thinking like, I should go in and just grab the wheel and I should just drive. And I was like, no, like what's the point? We're already late. But I kept saying, I'm like, oh my God, we're so late. And Yael said it to me. She's like, Ma, like, how many more times are you going to say it? Like, what is it going to do? And I was like, wow, she called me out. Okay. This looks so, and then I just referred back to this because I was like learning Tanya this week. And I'm like, this is not real. This is just an extension of Hashem putting me in a situation where I'm going to try to struggle and I'm going to feel a test and I'm going to feel icky. But if I, for 1 second, think that the whole reason Hashem created this world was to make a dir b'tachtonim, to have a space for him in this world, and I'm actually doing it by recognizing he's on the Van Wyck with me, with Yael gripping the wheel. She stole my sunglasses because she's like, it's so sunny, and I couldn't see. And then I'm getting nauseous because I get so car sick. And I'm like, it has to be Hashem is in this situation because he created it for this exact moment. And the second I let go and I say, Hashem, could you just come into the van with me? Take the car seat because there's no more seats left, right? Like, sit there, just come in the car with me. And the second I say that, I made space for him. I'm happy because I'm a little bit less stressed. He's happy because Hashem created this world for this exact reason. It's like the most joyful experience that I can have because it's like, oh my God, this is exactly what Hashem wanted. Hashem wanted to be in my struggles. Hashem wanted to be here. And the second I just flip something in my head, and by the way, it's only in your head. You don't have to physically act anything out. You don't have to start dancing and you don't have to do jumping jacks and whatever. You just have to, for 1 second mentally flick a switch in your head and say, okay, Hashem's here. This is, he wanted this situation. He wanted this to happen to me right now. And the second I let him in, he's so happy. It's like, imagine, like I think about this all the time, like with my kids with Shabbos parties, right? Okay. So they now like switched and they made it into the Shabbos hosts because it used to be the mommy and the tati and then the girls had to be, did you ever have this? Where like there's a whole class of girls and you're like, your kid comes home and you're like, Shabbos tati. I'm like, how does that work? Like, what should I do? I like, you know, like in a school play when they like put their bun and you know, I always think of like all the plays, like put your hair in a bun and like make little payas, right? And I'm like, it's my daughter, what are we doing? So they switched it, everybody's Shabbos host. But when the kid comes home from school with that paper asking for 24 snacks, right? Or make sure it's yashan, and then they're like grape juice. I'm like, how's she gonna lug like a big Costco bottle of grape juice to school? Like, you know, she could barely carry her knapsack. She's gonna fall over when I put it in. It's like she falls backwards. The kids are so happy. They come home with that paper and like, we are the Shabbos hosts. And I'm like, shoots, I made my grocery order already. Like, that's my first thing. And then I'm like, is anybody going to Gourmet Glock? Can anybody get me 24, you know, Yashan, like pretzels, kosher brand, right? They are so excited to bring Shabbos in their little pre-1A classroom. They are jumping for joy. They cannot breathe. I am the Shabbos mommy. They take their little tichel, they stand in front of Melissa and Doug candlesticks, and they are so excited. It's like I was born for this. I am so ready for Shabbos party. And it's like by us, it's like I don't know if everybody's been saying this, like, Shabbos ready? And I'm starting to just flick a switch and say, yeah, it's Shabbos. This is what I've been waiting for. The king is coming. Shabbos is coming to me. Imagine I'm thinking that like my 5-year-old who is so excited for Shabbos, and it just changes the whole thing. It's like the whole week was created for Shabbos. Like Hashem is coming to my house. And not only is he coming to my house, he's coming to the best house. He has the best bunkhouse. Like, you know when you find out in camp that you have the best bunkhouse? Like, you're like, oh, I got, like in camp, she was like, you got the roundhouse? Like, boom, you're good. Like, you're close to the canteen. You're like, you don't have to walk so far to like sports activities. Like, that's the best place. That's exactly how Hashem feels when he comes into your house. He's like, yes, I got the house where the people have the smelly things in their house. Like, I got the best place. And that's how I started thinking that this should bring me joy. Even though it's a sad place, it should actually bring me joy when I think about it. Does now creation make sense? What are you thinking now? Do you want to speak it out? No? Yeah. Okay, this is one concept. Then let me take questions a second and then we'll move on a little bit further. Yeah.
Okay, so what you said about when
it was worth it. It was worth the spell because there was like nothing left when I spoke.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What you said about when you're struggling and let's say you're on the Van Wyck and then you flip that switch. So I always think about that because like let's say it happens that you're in traffic and then not an hour in, but within a minute you're already like, okay, this is meant to happen, Hashem's with me. Like that doesn't really constitute as a struggle because right away you acknowledge that it's Hashem, so do you get another struggle after that?
So
Because like I always think about that. I don't know why.
It's so interesting that you say that. First of all, to have the ability to be able in 1 minute to flip it, like everyone should like standing ovation. Like
you're only after you work on doing that.
so it's a muscle. So it keeps coming. It keeps coming. I heard
that you didn't even struggle, so like you got another one.
So no. So okay. So by the way, I just heard this yesterday from Ghazali Fenster. He was saying that I think back to this because I try to say Nishmas to Charlene like at 40 days, right? So he said every struggle only lasts 40 days. Really, technically, there's this concept.